There are some doors that should never be opened, some invitations that should never be sent.
4 dead. Just gone. Wiped out in a single, horrifying instant.
Think about that. What if a single lie, just one sentence meant to save face, could unleash a massacre? Or what if a moment of pure, raw grief could literally open a doorway for a demon? It sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, today we're diving into 3 true stories, real cases from India, where a simple crime against morality became a terrifying invitation for horror.
All right, let's open our first case file. This one, it doesn't start with some monster lurking in the shadows. No, this story begins with a family tragedy and a desperate attempt to control what people think.
So, our story starts with this 17-year-old girl. She's a content creator, making dance reels, chasing that online dream. But her family, they're very conservative, and they did not approve at all. Then, one morning, she's found dead. It's a suicide. But for her family, the tragedy, well, that wasn't the main problem. The main problem was the scandal. This was something that had to be managed and fast.
And this is the moment it all goes sideways. The police show up and they're suspicious. They think maybe the family pressure had something to do with it. But then an uncle steps in. He's kind of the family's fixer, And he tells one single lie to protect their reputation. He tells the cops, no family trouble here, just a simple suicide. Case closed. He thought he was bearing the story. But what he actually did was trigger a curse.
Okay, so fast forward a few weeks. The family's at some function, and suddenly the uncle's young son just collapses. He starts speaking, but it is not his voice. It's the voice of his dead cousin, and she has a warning for them. They're all about to leave for a wedding in their home village, and right before they go, she delivers this absolutely chilling ultimatum through the little boy.
So what do? They ignore it. They just write it off as, oh, it's just a kid having a tantrum. I mean, a wedding was planned. Social obligations, right? They were way more important than some strange threat. So they load up 2 SUVs to make the trip. And just before they pull out, the uncle's wife, the aunt, she decides to switch cars. She wants to go gossip with the other women. A tiny, seemingly innocent decision. But it was a fatal one. Barely 20 minutes after those 2 cars split up on the highway, the phone rings. It's the police. There's been an accident. A horrible one. The second car, the one the aunt had just switched into, was completely destroyed. And the death toll? 4.
But the real horror? It wasn't just the crash. It's what happened inside that car. A spiritual guru later explained what went down. Apparently, the possessed boy screamed at his father, the driver, to stop the car. When he didn't listen, the boy, or whatever was inside him, punched his own dad, knocking him out cold. The car slammed directly into a tree. 2 kids died right there. The aunt, she survived the crash, but in a state of absolute shock and terror, she killed herself right there on the stretcher. And the uncle? The one who told that single lie that started it all? The entity left him alive. He was the sole survivor, forced to live with what he had done.
All right, let's move on. Case file number 2. And you'll see how this pattern starts to build. This time, the crime isn't some deliberate lie. No, this is more of a crime of the heart. A vulnerability so deep, so profound, it just tore an opening for something else to come through.
So, let me tell you about Manav. This guy was a gifted singer. I mean, truly talented. His whole life revolved around his best friend, a guy named Rithik. But then, Rithik was murdered. And Manav, he just shattered. He fell into this black hole of depression. He'd spend all day crying by this old, haunted banyan tree. He basically stopped living, sleeping for like 19 hours a day. And his grief, it became a beacon in the dark. And in that weakened, heartbroken state, he attracted something, an entity known as a jinn. Now, a jinn is a supernatural being from Islamic mythology, and they can possess people. This one, it was drawn to the beauty of Manav's singing voice, and it saw his overwhelming grief as the perfect opportunity, the perfect open door to just walk in and take control.
So the family, totally desperate, calls in a powerful guru to perform an exorcism. The plan is this: trap the jinn in a clay pot and have Manav's father bury it under that haunted tree. Simple enough, right? Except the guru gives him one terrifying condition. He says, on your walk to that tree, no matter what you hear, no matter what you think you see behind you, do not turn around. If you look back, your son dies.
And in that moment,
The jinn unleashed everything it had. It was pure psychological warfare. As the father walked, he heard the voice of his own dead mother begging him for forgiveness. Then he heard his wife screaming for him to save their child. He could literally feel phantom hands grabbing at his legs, trying to pull him back. It was a full-on assault on his senses, on his soul.
But he didn't turn. He made it. He buried the pot, and he saved his son. But here's the thing. Their peace is incredibly fragile. The guru gave them a final warning. Manav is only safe as long as that pot stays buried. If anyone ever digs it up, that jinn will be free, and it will come back.
Okay, on to our final case file. This one deals with maybe the most timeless sin there is. Plain, simple greed. We're talking about one moment of weakness that led a young man to literally pick up a curse that was meant for somebody else.
So you've got this guy, Nickel, and his friend. They're broke, they're desperate, and they find a purse just sitting on the side of the road. They open it up, and inside is a small fortune. Gold, cash, a phone. The right thing to do would be to turn it in, right? But they don't. They decide to keep it. In that moment, they thought they'd hit the jackpot.
So they go out, they celebrate, and Nickel eventually goes to bed. But he wakes up in the middle of the night with that horrible feeling that he's being watched. He looks over at his window, and standing right there is the old woman from the photo that was in the purse. A little later, he and his cousin are trying to get away on a motorcycle, and Nickel just starts screaming that she's right behind them, that her hands are grabbing at him.
See, this wasn't just some random haunting. A priest figured it all out and revealed the gold's twisted history. It belonged to an old woman who was so obsessed with her wealth that after she died, her spirit literally came back to haunt her own family when they tried to keep it. They got so scared that, to escape the curse, they just threw the purse away. And Nickel, he was just the unlucky guy who picked up their problem.
And there was only one way to break this curse. And it's pretty grim. They had to find the old woman's grave, dig up her actual corpse, and bury the gold and the purse right there with her body. It was the only place she wanted it.
So, what's the connection here? You've got a family lie, a grieving son, a stolen purse. What's the thread that ties all this together? Let's connect the dots, because there's a pretty dark truth that all three of these stories are pointing to. I mean, just look at the pattern. It's so clear when you lay it out. In every single case, a specific moral failing, a sin, created a very specific supernatural consequence. A lie told to protect a reputation, that invited a vengeful spirit. Uncontrolled grief, that created an opening for a predator. And simple greed, that just attached a restless, angry ghost to a brand new victim.
You know, we usually think of horror as something that haunts places, right? An old creepy house, a dark forest, a graveyard. But these cases, they suggest something way more personal and honestly way more terrifying. They suggest the paranormal doesn't just haunt locations. It haunts human weakness. Your sins, your moral failings, they aren't just mistakes. They're invitations. They're signals you're sending out into the darkness.
And that brings us to the final and maybe most unsettling question of all. It's really easy for us to sit here and judge the people in these stories for their lies, their grief, their greed. But what this really does is force us to look at ourselves. So if every one of these moral failings really does send an invitation out into the darkness, who or what have you invited?